In the opening days of 1258, Caliph al-Mustasim sat within the inner sanctums of Baghdad's palace. He was watching a private performance by his favorite dancer, a woman named Arafa, seemingly insulated from the massive Mongol army gathering outside the city walls. That insulation vanished when a stray arrow pierced the glass and struck Arafa, killing her instantly in the middle of her routine. When the Caliph's guards retrieved the projectile, they found a chilling warning carved into the wood. If God wishes to execute his decree and destiny, he strips people of reason of their minds. The Caliph spiraled into a panic. He didn't call for a tactical briefing or a counterattack. Instead, he commanded his servants to hang more curtains and place additional screens around the palace, as if silk could hide him from the inevitable. This retreat into superstition and domestic decor marked the true end of the Abbasid Caliphate. When the Hev state responds to a siege by literally closing the curtains, the city's survival has already become a logistical impossibility. This plain illustrates the scale of the crisis. Hulagu Khan stood outside the gates with a professional Mongol army of 200,000 men. The internal math of the city made the situation even more dire. While the invaders were at full strength, Baghdad's defending army had been reduced to fewer than 10,000 soldiers. These remaining 10,000 were barely a functioning military. Having been stripped of their official pay, soldiers were frequently seen begging for food in the local markets and at the gates of mosques just to survive the day. How did the global capital of wealth and culture reach this level of military decay while an existential threat was marching toward its borders? This catastrophic vulnerability was the result of a calculated campaign of political sabotage, carried out by one of the most powerful men in the Caliph's own administration. The architect of this collapse was the Vizier, Ibn al-Alqami, the man tasked with the very survival of the empire. Driven by a desire for revenge after his relatives' homes were looted during a sectarian riot the previous year, the Vizier decided to use his position to dismantle the state from within. He spent months striking nearly 90,000 soldiers from the state payroll, effectively dissolving the army. Simultaneously, he maintained a secret correspondence with the Mongols, providing Hulagu with precise details on the city's weakness. As the siege tightened, the Vizier laid his final trap. He convinced the Caliph that Hulagu Khan was interested in a diplomatic solution, a peace treaty where the Mongols would simply collect half of the city's annual tax revenue. This shows how a high-ranking official can prioritize personal vengeance over the lives of millions, effectively handing the keys of a civilization to its conquerors. Representing Baghdad's intellectual heart, seen here in the Mustansidia Madrasa's architecture, 700 scholars and judges followed the Caliph out the gates. They believed they were riding toward a diplomatic negotiation. The betrayal was immediate. The 700 elites were separated and executed on the spot, while the Caliph was taken into the Mongol camp to be interrogated and humiliated before his final execution. The Mongols faced a religious dilemma. Their traditions held that royal blood possessed a sacred power, and spilling it onto the earth would trigger a supernatural disaster for their army. To bypass this taboo, the Mongols wrapped the Caliph in a heavy leather sack. He was then trampled to death by horses, ensuring he was crushed without a single drop of his blood ever touching the soil. This mechanical execution allowed the Mongols to decapitate the Abbasid leadership while remaining technically compliant with their own religious laws. This medieval illustration captures the Mongol army entering the leaderless city. They began a 40-day campaign of total slaughter, moving block by block. Citizens fled into the city's subterranean infrastructure, hiding in sewers, wells, and vaults, hoping the massacre would pass them by. The Mongols used fire to flush these people out. They piled flammable debris against the entrances of locked buildings, forcing the families inside to choose between suffocating in smoke or being killed on the rooftops. The scale of the killing was so dense that blood flowed through the rain gutters and into the streets, a literal tide of casualties that continued for over a month. The sack of Baghdad was a calculated act of annihilation, ensuring the former center of the world could never again challenge Mongol authority. The Vizier, Ibn al-Alqami, found no glory in his betrayal. The Mongols treated him with contempt, and he died only months later, broken by the realization that he had facilitated the destruction of his own world. The mass of unburied bodies created a biological catastrophe. A plague soon emerged from the ruins, carried by the wind as far as the Levant, killing tens of thousands who had survived the initial invasion. Baghdad went from being the most vibrant city on earth to a silent ruin, inhabited only by a few starving survivors hiding in the wreckage. The fall of the city marked the definitive end of the Abbasid era, a collapse triggered by a massive external force that found its target already hollowed out from within.